I sought out like my own self-destruction pretty quickly, and like it almost made it harder for me. Like I couldn't point to anything and say, this happened to me and that's why I feel this way. Like nothing bad really happened in my life. I just really didn't even want to be alive. Like I remember thinking that in 5th grade. It turned out that I just needed a different solution to my problem. It was finding people who were like-minded, who think like me, you know, who like just taught me a new way to live. It doesn't matter what happens to you, it's how you react to it. You know, the less I think about myself, the more I think about others, the better off I am. Like I wanted to be so unique, but now I actually like knowing that I'm not that unique. That's what makes me feel more connected to others. You know, then you don't feel so alone in the crazy world that we live in.
I'm dancing on a volcano, bare feet over fire and stone. Yeah, I've lived through hell, but I'm not alone. The edge don't scare me, I've already been burned. Every step I take now is a lesson I've learned.
On a volcano. I just asked Dean, and he said, episode 20. That's pretty awesome.
Good
Who would have
number.
thought? Who would have thought? So, I'm here with Zamira Doar. I'm trying to do because, you know, the funny thing is I've been saying Doar for a minute now because, you know, for some odd reason, and then you tell me it's Doar, and I'm like, Zamira Doar. Sorry about that.
You good?
It's because I'm trying to slow my brain down. I've been pushing too hard all day. He was like, listen, man, you need to shut it down like 30 minutes early so you have time to like get your head to calibrate back in again. So here with Zamira Doar. Zamira and I met in I used to say church basement, but I will say church auditorium, I think. Although maybe basement and a little bit of both, or maybe a restaurant, because I remember that I think we were with Georgie or something, and you and your husband, there was a bunch of us or whatever at one point. And strangely enough, you've known my wife for like 20 years, 15, 20 years. My wife's been around for decades. And she was like, oh, Zamira, I think it was just your birthday, she said to me.
It was.
Happy birthday.
Thank you.
Happy birthday.
Thanks.
That's awesome. That's awesome. So, you know, you and I were talking before we got started, and sometimes I will try and do a little bit of research on somebody before I interview with them just to try and calibrate like where I want to go with it. I've done some of that, and I've also done some where it's just kind of like we just roll with it and see where it goes. This is a roll with it and see where it goes thing. You know what I mean?
Love it.
I figured like, you know, let it just unpack organically, and a power greater than us will tell us where we go. So where are you from originally, Zamira?
I'm from Philly, born and raised.
Oh, really? You're a Philly girl? What part of Philly?
23rd and Spruce.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay.
That's
okay.
where I grew up. So I was 13.
I know Spruce Street. I know my way around. I've lived on and off in Philadelphia. I'm a Conshohocken boy, but I've lived on and off Philadelphia several times over the years.
Okay.
And I love Philly, but eventually I got to get out. I don't know if that makes sense to you or not. You know what I mean? Like
I mean, it makes sense to others, and I get that. You know, for me, I'm like, I never want to be too far from the city because I'm a city girl at heart.
Right.
Like the furthest I've ever lived from Philadelphia has been Bluebell.
Okay. I used to have offices in Bluebell.
Okay.
Right? It's 73 and 202. Right there, almost right at the corner next to what is the PJ Wheelahands right there. I used to have offices right next to there. So I know Bluebell a little bit. So from Philly, and 23rd and Spruce is Center City-ish. Yeah, that's pretty much Center City. You don't meet a lot of Center City kids.
I
right?
know.
You know what I mean? Like, there's a lot of South Philly kids, a lot of North Philly kids, a lot of, you know, Southwest people.
Yep.
So what was your childhood like in Center City? Like, what's that like?
It was great. I mean, I grew up just walking around the streets, going outside and playing on the streets on either side. So we were on 23rd Street, and then we had two little alleys on either side of our house. And we were
Right.
on a small block where there was just 3 houses on that block. So we would go to Delancey Street, which was right on the one side, and we would just go play with the kids in the street. So it was really
The world
fun.
has changed.
It's different. I
It's
don't
not
think
like
kids
that.
do
Yeah,
that
you wouldn't
now.
let your kids out like now and be like, "Hey, go ahead." You know what I mean?
No,
Like, you'll
we
be all
just-
right. You know what I mean? Like they let us loose a lot
Yeah, I
more.
grew up going to Fittler Square, Rittenhouse Square.
Right.
You know,
I was
that's
just
my
gonna say
old
that
playground.
that's almost Rittenhouse. Like that's
Yeah.
Technically, you could consider that Rittenhouse neighborhood. time period.
Technically, yeah.
Right. Right.
I went to the Philadelphia school, which is on 26th and Lombard. That
Okay.
school is still there. So when I was there, I went there for 10 years, and I started in kindergarten, graduated in 8th grade. There were 16 people in my graduating class. So it was a very small
Wow.
school.
Wow. Do you feel like that's better for children, or the experience of less people, or do you feel like that's isolationist in a way, so it doesn't prepare you as much for other kids at a bigger level, or you know what I mean? Like, what's your take on how that affected you?
Well, it's hard to say because it's my experience, the only
Right,
experience
right,
I had, right? But I will
right.
say I started there in that small private school, and then I went on to a big public high school. So I went
Right.
to Lower Merion High School.
Okay.
So I went from this small school with 16 people in my graduating class to, 400 plus. I don't even know. Maybe it was more.
Was it
than
a
that.
shock?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Public school was a shock
Yeah.
for me.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
So siblings.
I have a brother.
Okay. How old or younger?
He's younger than me. He's three
Okay.
and a half years younger.
Okay. You guys
Yeah.
get along?
We do.
Okay, that's
we're,
cool.
We're very similar.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, we're very similar people, very similar personalities. So yeah, we get along well. He lives in Philadelphia too.
Okay. How about mom, dad? How'd that all unpack for you?
So my parents got divorced when I was 7.
Okay.
My mom is still around.
Okay.
My mom lives in Wynwood, so she's close to me. My father passed away 11 years ago. Turns out it was the same year your father
That's crazy.
passed away.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That's
I don't know if it
crazy.
was the same. It was April 7th.
February 7th.
Wow, the
Yeah,
7th.
February 7th. Mm-hmm. Yeah,
Mm.
that's weird.
That is
Isn't that weird?
Yeah. 2007.
2007. Yeah. Wow.
Didn't realize we had that
That's
connection.
the strange thing is, and that's what we were talking about before we got started. Like, you unpack things and you realize that, there are all kinds of differences, and then you run across these similarities strange and you go, wow, you know what I mean? Like, I had no idea.
Yeah.
You think when you're going through that type of thing, you're the only person going through that type of thing. It's such a shock to the system
Yeah.
that it really kind of draws in your observations of everything else. It took me quite a long time to kind of like recalibrate to the fact that, many other people also lose family,
Yeah.
if that makes sense. Were you-
Yeah, hold on. Let me correct something that
Okay,
I said,
go ahead.
though.
Go ahead.
I don't know why I said 2007. That's not the year
I was
he
going to
passed
say,
away.
because my
It-
math sucks, but I was
No,
like-
my math does too. I totally. As I'm sitting here thinking, I'm like, wait, that's the wrong date. It was 2015. Yeah,
Right.
2015.
Right, okay.
But
Okay.
it was April 7th.
Well, you know what? Honestly, like, you help me a lot when you do things like that, because my ability to calculate things on the fly is horrible. I don't know whether it's
I don't
just,
even know why I said
the
that.
level of brain cells I've got left, or it might be.
That's
little
what
bit,
I'm going to
but-
blame it on.
Yeah,
for
yeah.
me.
Well, I'm with you. We're both going to roll with that. So, would you say you were closer with mom or dad, or what was your take?
Well, my personality is more similar to my dad.
Okay.
My dad grew up in Israel. He was one of 11 kids, a bit of like a wild child,
Right.
kind of. He grew up on a kibbutz, so he didn't really have like parents kind of overseeing what he was doing. Kind of
That's
ran
more
free.
like communal lifestyle, right? Isn't
Yeah.
it? Right. Okay.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
So, definitely, like my dad was into sports, and he's very like extrovert, people person, super friendly and charismatic, and so I think I definitely have a lot of like similarities,
With
with
him.
my dad and
More
with
gregarious and
Yeah,
is
yeah,
that like kind of like his business style too? Like what how does that fold
Yeah,
into?
I mean, he had like 3 different jobs. Like, yeah, he was very like he was a gym teacher. So he
Okay.
worked at a jail. He worked at the juvenile delinquent center, and he was gym teacher for those kids.
So
maybe,
he's
like,
tolerant
25.
then.
I guess
You'd have
I mean,
to be, right?
He
You know what I
always
mean?
said it
Like-
was just like playing. Like,
Yeah,
he didn't
yeah,
really think
yeah.
of it as like work. He just said he would go and like play with the kids. Can't believe I got that date wrong. Like that's just like I'm
totally,
thinking about like what?
That's totally cool. Well, so here's the other thing too is, strangely enough, is it's like one of the most pivotal moments in your life.
Yeah.
And then, at least for me, you kind of like push those things. Cognitive load's a real thing. There's only so much room in your head.
Yeah.
Right? So you start like pushing out all this shit that's like, because there's only so much room. And you find out that there's things that seem to be like things that should be really, really key things, dates that you should remember. Yesterday, I was filling out an application online for some shit, and it asked me my age, and I was like, am I 56?
Yeah.
Am I
Did
56?
double take?
Am I 55? Am I 56? And then here's the funny math thing, right? So luckily, you can make a few dollars and not be very smart. So I literally went into Google and put my date in Google and said, how old am I?
Oh my God.
Right? So don't judge me.
Yeah, maybe don't tell too many
judge me.
people that.
All right.
No,
So
just kidding.
yeah, no. So closer. You said you're more like Dad.
Yeah, like my personality is more like him. I think the part of me that's definitely similar to my mom is she's very like practical kind of person. Like she really,
Okay.
My mom, super smart. She was a director of development for a nonprofit organization for a number of years. She had different jobs throughout her career.
Right.
And she's artistic. She's a good writer. She's a good planner. She's good at nonprofit, fundraising, things like that. So she can wear like many hats and has done a lot of different things in her life. And now she's retired and she does things for her neighborhood. So she's always doing something. She's like learning new things. She can speak French. Like she's very, kind of, well-versed human
Right.
being,
Right. Well-rounded.
Yeah, well-rounded human being. So it's like my mom is definitely like the kind of more practical, strategic person in my life in terms of like, yeah, I've always talked to her about like career pathing and finances and different things like that. That has
Right.
always been like what I've aligned kind of with my mom on. And then my dad was this more like kind of playful, humorous, just like, go have fun and play kind of adventurous person.
Well, you end up with a nice balance there.
Yeah, I always say, like, I mean, my parents got divorced when I was 7. I have, like, no memories of them together, really, like, good or bad. I just
Right.
don't remember that time.
Right.
But I think they couldn't have been more different from each other. So I always say to people, like, when you put those two people together, you get this, like, a
Right.
little bit of crazy,
What it would have been like to been a fly on the wall and have that level of memory at that age. You know what I mean? But then again, maybe not.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, there's something to be said for distance and memory. And, and sometimes things happen that probably aren't pretty that we're not supposed to remember.
Yeah,
You know what I mean?
probably. But I mean, I had a good childhood.
Right.
I had all the things that, are necessary for like a good education,
Right.
being, well-rounded. My mom taught me a lot about like nutrition and health early on.
Right.
So like my dad was kind of the more focused around exercise and physical, like education and that sort of thing. And then my mom, she was kind of early on in terms of like being mindful about the food that we eat and nutrition. And I really learned those values from her early on. Like
Right.
as a kid growing up, I wasn't allowed to eat junk food or like sugar cereals. And like back then as a kid, of course I would see all my friends eating like fruit roll-ups and like candy
Right.
bars. And I
Right.
wanted that. But I'm really grateful for the way that I was brought up eating because now, like, it's very easy for me to eat healthy. People always ask me, they're like, oh, you eat so healthy. And I'm like, I just eat food. Like,
Right. Right. Well, there's
So-
nothing wrong with that.
yeah.
And not everybody has that level of influence. Right. You know what I mean? Like that's definitely like one of those wonderful things. You know what I mean? Like if you can look with gratitude at the areas where you really got implanted with the good stuff, that's definitely on the list. And then also having like a pragmatic mother and kind of a playful dad, you know what I mean, at the same time. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like that's I see the balance in you. That's pretty cool. That's cool. So right, so you figure graduated high school when?
2019.
2019.
No. Sorry. See, I'm off.
Man,
with the
we need
dates.
the calendar, man.
Hold on. 1999.
I was like 2019. This young head.
I'm
coming
like
up in
way
here.
off with the dates. What is going on with me today? No, I graduated.
Yeah. Shut up,
Okay.
man.
Graduated high school in 1999. Yeah, and then I went to college right after that because, like, that's what you do, right? Like, I'm supposed to go to college. I thought I wanted to study psychology. And then
Right.
after, like, a month into that, I was like, I do not want to do this at all.
What was it about psychology that you thought you wanted in the beginning that then really wasn't a fit for you once you got in it?
I think I was just, like, kind of fascinated by mental illness for a little bit. I would read all these books on, like, children that grew up in these, like, horrific situations and developed all kinds of, like, psychological disorders, and I just was kind of fascinated by it and what can happen to the human mind, and read about, like, multiple personality disorder, and I just found it very interesting. You know, what
but
the
then you
human
got
mind can do.
immersed in it and were like,
Yeah, then I changed my mind. I was like, I don't want to do this. There's too many psychologists out there. Not that there's anything wrong with that. Thank God there are those people out there.
right.
You know we need them. But I realized it wasn't for me, and I completely changed my career path and went after design. And I ended up taking a year off school, and then I went back to college, like, when I was
Now,
20.
when you say design, art design, two-dimensional design, graphic design,
And so now I'm a UX designer, so user experience designer.
user interface, user experience. So is that digital primarily, like
Digital,
Right,
yeah,
okay,
yeah,
okay.
websites and user interaction. But when I was in school, the internet was still kind of fresh, so it wasn't really a career path. And so my degree is in graphic design and interactive design. And
Where'd you go to college?
I went to Tyler School of Art,
Okay.
which is the art school of
It was
Temple.
between Tyler and UA. I ended up going to UA.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay,
I dropped out
so-
for a year, after a year, because I got high. But
Well, that's why I dropped out of my first college was psychology, because I was going to Westchester.
okay.
And I did the same thing. I dropped out
You're
because I was
I
like,
can't-
I'm not really.
I can't sustain good grades, even
No.
in art college. You know what I mean? Like, you know.
Oh, yeah.
That
Art
was the tough
college is
thing about
hard.
art college, was that art college was full of people that, like, I tell people all the time, like, we didn't have frats, and, you know, we didn't have sports. The sport was
No.
getting on.
Yeah.
It was a sport, right? You know, it
Yeah.
was all you really had. And it was a real thing.
Yeah. By the time I went back to college, though, I wasn't doing any drugs. You know, I went back to
Okay.
college. I was, just focused on, like, career at that point.
Right,
You know, I had, like,
right.
started to change my life. So, but I almost went to University of the Arts.
Okay.
So it's funny because I was also between University of the Arts and Tyler.
Tyler. Yeah.
And my mom and grandmother went to University of the Arts.
Hmm.
So I almost wanted to go there just
As
to kind of
when
follow.
it was PCA then.
It was
Yeah,
PCA.
It was PCA, right?
Exactly.
Yeah, that was an amazing experience for me. Right. That was an amazing experience for me. I'm an artist by trade, commercial arts, graphic arts. I don't get to do it in my formal daily life, so it leaks out of me everywhere else.
Yeah.
Right? And shit like this. You know what I mean? You go, oh, you know what I mean? Like, this is it all, I am not happy unless I am creating or designing. And actually, a friend of mine who he worked for top design firm in Philadelphia. They used to do, like, Ferrari shit and Hewlett Packard and all this other stuff. One of my companies, he designed part of the logo. And one day he and I was doing all this stuff with, like, plotting out, like, businesses and stuff. And they called me Dino, was my nickname. He was like, Dino, man, you're a business designer. And I was like, oh,
That's
I never even really thought about it. You know what I mean? Like, I was, like, getting off on how we would structure it together and what we would fit together and the pieces and the parts and how it would look and how it would feel and how it would sound, and you know what I mean? And yeah, everything from the colors and the visuals on through to, like, the way it was represented in writing and, and that type of thing. So I'm creating websites before people even knew, I think for the first Patriot website, was like, I put the advertisement from the website in the yellow pages. Right, we're talking about 1999, 2000 maybe. You know what I mean? Like, it was like the yellow pages are still this thick. You know what I mean? I was like,
Oh,
they were
yeah.
in there. There's my little logo that I
Used
drew.
to
but-
sit on those in my
you know,
car.
yeah,
Make
right,
me a little tall.
right? So, now I have a kinship with you. I didn't know you were an artist. That's
Yeah.
cool. That's cool. So, and user interface, for what it's worth, in today's day and age, is the experience that happens in, like, I'm not gonna say retail is dead, but it's dying. I went to tech school for commercial art while I was still in high school at Central Montgomery County area Tech School. There we go. So my instructor, who I'm still connected with to this day on Facebook, I think he's in his 80s now. I think Frank Schroyer. Frank was a graphic artist, and the neat thing was the way they set the classroom up was there was a little space to the side where he had like his own little suite, and he would do like graphics work on the side for little side projects he was doing or whatever. But he had been a display artist, and he had done, like retail display,
Yeah.
when he first got started. And it was really cool because to me, I'm kind of like, in the beginning it was like, if you're not a fine artist, if you're not fine, you know what I mean? Like if you're not oil painting,
Right.
right? And he was like, yeah, he was telling me about like displays they did and Bailey Banks and Biddle and that type of thing. And it was just kind of like, and I respected him so much. I admired him. And what it really did was the admiration of him led me to being more open-minded about what art could be.
Mm-hmm.
Thank God, because I got the University of Arts, and I remember one day we went to see Marcel Duchamp, and I was like, and there was like a toilet that was broken, and you know what I mean, and ropes hanging from the side. I was like, "Fuck is this?" And somebody was like, "Yo, it's art to somebody," and I was like, "Okay," you know what I mean? Like and he's the guy who designed the clothespin.
Yeah,
Right? You know what I mean? And I was like, okay. You know what I mean? Like the concept is that, you're a designer. You design things that are art, but people don't necessarily see them as art because they're functional.
Yeah.
Right? And that just because it's art, just because it's functional does not make it art.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely gotten further away from like the word art and like closer to design.
Okay.
I don't see myself as a fine artist. I never really was.
Right.
I was definitely always more of a designer. I'm definitely a creative person. I think I fall more into that category that you're talking about, like these different ways of thinking about art in the form of creativity and not necessarily with a brush or a pencil,
So, all right. So you go to college. You start out in Westchester.
Yeah.
Then you're in Tyler.
I went to Tyler. I
Right.
lived in Fairmount for a bit during that time.
Okay. So we met in a place where people meet that go to difficult places before they get better. Right?
Yeah.
So, and based on this conversation, and also because I know like you've been around a while, right? I know that. So, it sounds like, and I'm making an assumption here, that you went to the Volcano fast.
Yeah.
Right? You know what I mean? Because some people are like, for me, unfortunately, like I took a slow, roundabout, steady path to the Volcano for years and years and years. And because it was hot, but it was still somewhat tolerable, 30 years later, I was on fire.
Yeah.
But it was like a 30-year journey of like just, tolerable brutality. But it was still brutal, but the gift of desperation didn't come to me quickly. So,
yeah, for me, it was like definitely, I sought out like my own self-destruction pretty quickly. And like, from what I've described to you so far, right? Like I had a good life. I had a good upbringing.
right.
So when I look back at like, my journey in my life and, the beginning of my life kind of being pretty destructive from the time I was around 15 to 19 years old. Well, really in the scheme of things, that's like a pretty short time in one's life,
Right.
right? 15 to 19.
But 15 is like so tumultuous.
Oh, you
It's
couldn't pay me to go back to
yeah,
that time in
it's
my life.
so
like,
hard. It's
it
like
was.
the word those years are like you're trying to navigate your way through. You know what I mean? Like school
Yeah.
and relationships and social interactions and all that other stuff. So, 15 to 19 can be brutal.
Yeah, it was really tough. Like I had no reason other than it's just who I am at the core, but I just hated myself for those years.
Right.
Really like did a lot of self-harm in a lot of different ways. I was institutionalized 10 different times during that, 4-year period from like 15 to 19.
Let me ask you a question. So, like my first therapist at the VA, right? We would, and I had worked myself into a place where I was using and everything else, but I also post-traumatic stress disorder, all kinds of stuff that came from the military, and frankly, prior to the military, et cetera, et cetera. It was a mixed bag, but there were anxiety, depression, like all these these issues that I was dealing with, right? And if I was to articulate like what the problem really was, the cause of those things, you know what I mean? Like I would not have pointed the finger at my use. I would have pointed my finger at the, all these underlying issues. And then one day I threw a key tag at him. I was like, he had been clean for 32 years in the other fellowship. So vet missing a leg, he would come in and put his leg down on the side and sit and talk to me. You know what I mean? Like he's been dead now for like 3 or 4 years, but he just about saved my life. Not just about, he did. But slowly, I'm not going to say that they went away, but some of the things that I thought were sourced based on these underlying things like depression and anxiety, they started to kind of dissipate. You know what I mean? Like there were still underlying issues, but how much of it do you think like in those years, like 15, it's just about everybody wants to escape running and screaming. But that state of, being institutionalized and those type of things, how much of that do you think based on, a perception, because nobody really knows reality, based on perception, how much of that do you think was induced by, extracurricular activities, and how much of that do you think was induced by, issues with mental illness?
Yeah, for me, like, I don't know. I don't even think of it as like either necessarily. Like,
Okay.
I don't think I had mental illness. I don't think it was that. I think there is definitely something in my brain that I'm aware of now. Like it's the way that my mind works, and now I've found a solution with other people to like combat that, to work in a different way, to like think differently, right? To change my thinking, to like gain my power back, right? But like I think back then I was just like this lost kid, and I was trying everything I could do to try to fix, manage, and control and make me feel better with myself. And I just didn't want to be me, and I don't think it was any kind of mental illness. Maybe it was like partially the substances I was using, but it wasn't even that, because even before I ever picked anything up, I remember having this like depression and like sorrow in my spirit, and I didn't know where it came from. It almost made it harder for me. Like I couldn't point to anything and say, this happened to me, and that's why I feel this way. Like nothing bad really happened in my life. It just turned out that like I just hated myself, and I didn't really know why. And I didn't really know what to do with all that feelings. And I don't think my family knew what to do with it either, because they were like, we don't understand, like, what's wrong with this kid, Like, why is she acting like this? But, like, I had, like, lots of issues before I even tried any kind of drugs, Like, I was stealing. I was, like, doing a lot of, like, self-harm. I just really didn't even want to be alive. Like, I remember thinking that in 5th grade. Like, I just don't want to be alive. Like, why does a kid think that for, like, no reason? You know, I don't know, but like, I don't think it was any kind of mental illness for me because I don't think like that at all today, you know, and I don't
Right.
take any kind of medication. And this is just for me. And I know that like mental illness is obviously a
Legit.
real
Yeah,
thing. It's a
right,
real thing. A lot of
right.
people have it. I don't, but for a lot of years, I had gone to therapy and I had psychologists and psychiatrists that thought that I did have that. And I was put on a lot of different kinds of medication. For years, I
Right.
was medicated from the time I was 15 to like 25 years old. And then when I was 25, 26, I was like, I don't know if I need this. And I
Right.
wanted to, you know, and I think people have to be mindful of like how they approach that, right? I wouldn't just say
Yeah,
that
because
to
you come
anybody.
some stuff you come cold turkey off of. You want to jump off a bridge, like it's brutal.
Yeah, and I mean, I got off of things gradually, but, you know, it turned out that I just needed a different solution to my problem, and it wasn't medical for me. You know, it was finding people who were like-minded, who think like me, you know, who like just taught me a new way to live, a new way to think, a new way to behave, a new way to go through life, not reacting to every single thing that I think and feel, you know?
Wow. You have tools.
Yeah.
What do you think about a 12-step process, and how did that unpack for you over time? And how much do you lean into that now with an awareness? And how much has that become part of you without that, maybe that conscientious awareness of it?
That's
Does
a
that
little
make-
hard
does it-
for me to answer
Does that make
on this.
sense? You know what I mean? Like, because for me, there was a point in time where I was like, that's this, and this is tied to that, and that's and then it's eventually just kind of like faded into the background, just became part of, you know what I mean? Like, I don't necessarily like think about like, oh, use this spiritual principle, or, you know what I mean? Like, I might do that like when I'm talking to somebody else, or, you know, guiding somebody through that process. But for me specifically, it's kind of like just become part of,
Like who you are.
yeah, who I am.
I think I've surrounded myself with like-minded people who care about being a good person in the world. Who care about, like, you know, acting with integrity and sincerity and, you know, going through life in a way that I am like looking at myself and my behaviors and, you know, asking myself, like, who do I want to be? You know, like, there's this line that like jumps out to me sometimes. It's in this song that I listen to sometimes, and it says, you know, it doesn't matter what happens to you, it's how you react to it. You know, and I think so much of life it's that, like, it's not about me blaming what happened in my day, or like, who do I want to be? How do I want to react to that situation? And when I can approach life in that way, that changes my whole perspective, right? It's not about like, oh, this thing happened to me and now I'm going to react to it and I have feelings about it and I get angry about it, I get mad about it. It's all about like me, because I'm not getting my wants and needs met, you know? And I just try not to go through life that way today.
Right.
I definitely don't do that perfectly. Like on any given day, I'm falling short, right? But
Right.
I feel like it's just making a decision each day to approach life in a slightly less self-centered way. You know, the less I think about myself, the more I think about others, the better off I am. So, like, I try to stay in a position of being in service to others, being mindful about how I treat other people. You know, words do matter. I can't just say, oh, I could say whatever I want. It's your fault if you took it that way. No, I can't. I can't go through life like that anymore. You know, I do take responsibility for who I am and what I say and what I do and what I believe in.
Wow.
I think when you live like that, it changes things, you know?
Absolutely. And you hit something that, you know, I have a group of individuals that I spent once a week. I spend time with on the internet. We all from all over the country, and part of we were talking about the you know, perspective, purpose, priority. You know, the P's, right? And and purpose specifically, and you can be an individual with lofty ideals, lofty goals, you know, and I literally said last night, I was like, you know, I was quote now, you know what I mean? Like, you know, when you put yourself last, you always get to come first, baby. You know what I mean? Like that, do you understand? Like that's Al. You know what I mean? Like I part of Al lives on in me. You know what I mean?
I love that.
But there's truth in that. But the deeper truth is, the less I'm concerned about how the outcome affects me, the better off things are for everybody, including me. And that's the weird part, is it's like you would think that the opposite would happen. Like if I let go of the grip of what my personal agenda is and what I want out of this, then I will get less.
Yeah. I mean, that's just a self-centered way of thinking, though, right?
Right.
And like, so over the years and like with the help of others, I've just learned not to lean into those self-centered thoughts, and just to lean into the belief that like something else, like a greater energy, is guiding me in the right direction. It has been since I was 19 years old, and my whole life has changed as a result of it.
A power greater than you that conspires in your favor.
Yeah, definitely. Like, I constantly feel like in my life I have been given way more than I deserve.
Me too.
Right?
Me too.
And it just keeps happening, where you're like, can't possibly get better than this. And then it does.
You know Nazim?
Yeah,
Nazim.
of course.
It gets greater later. You know what I mean? And I tell people that all the time. You know what I mean? It gets greater later. And then the question becomes, like, how could it possibly be greater than this? I've never been this great before. You know what I mean? Like, and the reality of it is, and frankly, it's weird because I was just thinking about this, you know, I am greater than I was, sure. You know what I mean? And I'm like,
I like it.
And I was, when I was, that's not an external representation, it's internal, right? You know what I mean? Like, it's been pointed out to me recently that I'm motivated by growth, right? Which I didn't think. Like, when I looked at it, you know, I thought I was motivated by other things. So somebody else pointed it out to me. You know, we you know, basically profile each other, and they pointed out that, you know what I mean, that based on the conversation, growth was my motivator. And I thought about it, and I thought, well, you know, actually, truth of it is the evidence is everywhere, because I just keep doubling down on how much better can I be? You know what I mean? How much better can I? Because the world is swirling around me, and frankly, sometimes it looks like a total shitstorm. And I'm like, okay, you know what I mean? Like, I can't control that, right? And truthfully, at least in part, some of it's a protection mechanism, because it's like, if I'm a better me, then I can weather whatever the hell comes. You know what I mean? Because you know, I'm not a prepper per se, but I'm kind of a prepper just in terms of the way I look at life. You know what I mean? Like, when it comes, you better be ready. You know what I mean? And it's really become like this journey of just continuing to figure out, like, you know how deep the rabbit hole goes, where the bodies are buried. You know what I mean? And trying to just get better with myself on the day to day. And the last couple of days have been, you know, kind of dicey, frankly, from a business perspective, and just all around what's going on in the news, which I try not to look at, but you can't help but look at it. And, you know what I mean? You go, well, you know, where do we stand from here? And I said to a friend of mine, you know what I mean? Like, I'm like a dog on a flea's ass. Like, I can change where I eat, but I can't change where the dog goes. You know what I mean? Like, I'm stuck with just, you know, having to ride the universe the way the universe is going to let me ride it, if it does. Because, and that's, without an acknowledgement of a power greater than me, that's scary. That's scary. You know what I mean? Because you really feel like, you know, the randomness of the world is going to come give you a slap down. And it will, to a point, but, you know, what you talked about, being surrounded by other people, you know, you realize that, you know, I don't have to do this thing alone.
Yeah, definitely not. Like, why would you want to? It's so much more fun with other people, too.
Right?
You know? I mean, listen, life is, like, really fun. Like, there's so much to go after. Every once in a while, somebody will talk to me and, like, mention the word boredom in their day or something. I'm like, I don't even know how that's possible. With the amount of things you could do in life.
Right.
Like,
I don't have.
chase
I have no
after-
time to be bored.
No way.
I have no
I mean,
time
I
to be
could tell because you have 4 companies. You
Yeah,
said,
yeah,
know,
and-
but
yeah, I got
like,
a couple things going on. You know what I mean? And that's not the end of it. You know what I mean? Like I've got a 3D printing farm in the house I built, and so I'm like manufacturing stuff right now, trying to figure out like
That's
that
awesome.
thing, and you know what I mean? Like I have no
Projects.
shortage of, you know what I mean? Misfit toys laying around the house of just different things that I tried and experienced for a while and then lost interest in. So
Yeah.
you know what I mean? Like full disclosure, if there's ever a yard sale, if Jimmy Dinardo dies one day and there's a yard sale at my house, do not pass go or collect $200. Go immediately to my home because my wife will be anxious to get rid of the giant load of stuff, and there will be plenty of it. If something you're interested in, I have. You know what I mean? We'll say there is something a hobby that you always wish. Come to my house. You know what I mean? Everything from workout equipment to tattoo machines to I got it all, baby. You know what I mean? There's
got
something.
tattoo machines?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I
you tattooing yourself?
I tattooed myself. I wanted
God.
so I was like okay. I draw, I paint, I worked in stone, I sculpt, I throw on a wheel. You know what I mean? Like
That's
I've
cool.
done all those different things, and
Yeah.
I airbrushed and sign painted. You know what I mean? Like
See, so
digital
we're the
art
same.
and
Go after stuff.
So I was like, let me try this. So I was like, but it was one of those things where it was like, and I just told this story about a month ago. It was one of those things where I was like, well, one, it was cool, and two, it was like something that there was a certain like underground kind of machismo. I don't know. There was just something about it. It was like ever so slightly grimy. There was just something about it. And I also waited until I was 30 till I got ink for the first time. I went around the world with the Navy 2.5 times,
Really?
came back without any ink. And then because I'm an artist and I couldn't fathom getting tattooed and then not liking it because, you know what I mean? Like it had to, so I waited a long time till I got inked. So I bought the machines and, you know what I mean, and started, and I was like, well, you know what I mean? Like they were like, you can tattoo on this pig skin, or you can go work at a studio as an apprentice and basically empty the trash for years until, and I was like, fuck that. You know what I mean? At that point, I had already done business and everything else. Like I wasn't going to go be somebody's lackey so he would teach me. So I was like, I literally like, I bought a bunch of books, I did a bunch of reading, and then one day I was just like, fuck it. So I sat down and did this big ass tattoo on my leg. And and the funny thing is that, you get started, right? And then you realize like right off the bat, like you're like, you go to do the first line and you're like, I got to keep this line really straight.
Wow.
And it hurts at the same time. And you're like, well, I'm in it now. So, but the idea behind it was if I could do a decent tattoo on myself, if I could tough my way through it, and other people saw that I tattooed myself and it looked pretty decent, then they would let me tattoo on them. And that's what happened. So now I had a couple people coming to me and I was starting to tattoo a couple people, and you know what I mean? And at the time I was dating this girl who was a general surgeon. So she brought me like the whole suite of like, I could have done surgery in the house. Like I had all this gear, you know what I mean? Like I could have like opened up somebody's appendix, you know what I mean? Like it was crazy. So, and I was dating this girl and she was like, hey, you know what I mean? Like she was one of the reasons why she kept saying, you know what I mean? Like it would be so great if you were a tattoo artist, and the real reason why is because then you could tattoo me for free and I would get all these tattoos. So she'd been after me for a while. And then finally she was like, one time she was like, okay, here's what I want. I want cherries on my rib cage. And I was like, all right, well, how hard could it be? So then we started to do it, and then she tapped out because the pain was painful. So I got like half cherries on her side. And then she's like, and then immediately like she's like not happy, and then I feel guilty, and then I'm paying to have an artist fix it because she had a relationship with me so she could tap out with me. Whereas when she went to a tattoo artist, he was like, shut the fuck up, I'm tattooing you. You know what I mean? Like he wasn't hearing it. And it was literally like the last time I tattooed somebody because I was like, fuck this. You know what I mean? Like I'll work in any kind of media that doesn't yell at me or cry. Never painted on a canvas and had it weep or tell me to go fuck myself or not. You know what I mean? I was like, I'm not doing this anymore. You know what I mean? Like, you know what I mean? Like I want the experience of art to be something that I enjoy. And, it was the agony and ecstasy be damned. You know what I mean? Like if it's not, it's a place where I get to go to the zone.
Yeah.
And so tattoo machines are in the box, put away, and that was the end of it. So
That'll be at your yard sale.
fucking right. Come by. You know what I mean? Somebody's going to get some tattoo machines and the pedal and the whole thing. But just a few years ago, I did was it 6-7 years ago? I joined a local, art clinic and went and started doing some throwing.
Nice.
And I hadn't thrown in years, and I got in there, and everybody kind of looked at me like, ew, you know what I mean? And I was like, because I come in with my, bebop on in, like,
yeah,
you know what I mean, like, dumbass, and everybody's like, and then I get on a wheel, and within a day I'm throwing cylinders and all kinds, and then everybody's
That's
like,
awesome.
and now they hate me. Now all the girls in there hate me. The woman who was running it, she was a sweetheart, this old woman. She passed a couple years ago. But she was so nice to me and so kind. But, man, I sneers for years, man. They were just like, ugh, you know what I mean? So it was like I did it for a year, and then I was like, okay, I'm out. You know what I mean? Like, that's cool. I would come in and get my shit and, do my thing and then get out of there. But I'm totally, like, I feel like bonded to people who are creatives like that. You know what I mean? In any kind of way. It doesn't, designer specifically. I've got all this art equipment, you know what I mean? Like full-on studio at the house. And to sit down and draw, shit, I got no time for that. I do way more design work than I would ever. And a lot of it is like I play art director. Like, you know what I mean? Like and I don't have the hands for some of the skills. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like,
So it's funny, like, yes, I'm a designer and that's my day job, but I don't really think of myself as an artist that much sometimes. Because, well, yeah, because it's just not like my main kind of obsession, like, throughout the day. It's kind of like, it's what I do for work, and I like my job. I love my job. I've been there 12 years. It's what enables me to live the life that I live today, and I do enjoy it. I like designing experiences, digital.
Well, let me ask you a question then, because I'm curious about that. Like, because I don't have a clear definition, right, in my head. To me, a designer is an artist because it's somebody who arranges or puts together or, right, you know what I mean? Even if it, to me, at least in a way, even if you maybe don't see yourself as an artist, it's hard for me to look at somebody who's a designer as not.
I guess I see myself more as like a creative person.
Okay.
That's all.
Okay.
Like I don't want to say I'm not an artist, but I do feel more like, yes, I have like a creative mindset for sure, and creative tendencies and, some skills there. But actually, my job it's very like strategic as well.
Okay.
So it's not just about like designing something that looks good and that works well. It's also about like understanding users and their behavior and how to create things in a way that's going to help them get the information that they need to do their jobs. So, because I'm in a B2B organization.
So designing things like ClickFunnels and ish.
I work on like products, like digital products. So
Okay.
designing pages on a financial website for advisors. That's what I do right now. Yeah. But I think there's so many other more interesting things to talk about.
Oh, well, so I was just going to ask you, like, where do you think we should go from here?
Like, so you said something a few minutes ago about how you traveled around the world 2 times over, and that's what caught my ear more than anything else you said, because I love travel. I live for travel. I can't get enough of it. It's like the greatest high.
I saw a picture of you and your husband on boards with paddles, and I was like, was it Mexico Valley? Where the heck were you? I was like, wow.
Oh, it depends which picture that might have been.
Yeah.
Bora Bora.
Yeah, Bora
maybe.
Bora or something like that. I
That's
was
where
like,
we
check
went on
you
our
out.
honeymoon.
Yeah,
so,
that's badass.
Yeah,
That's
I
badass.
recommend it.
What's your favorite place in the world?
See, people ask me that all the time, and it's very hard to answer that because I think every place is so different. For me, my favorite area of the world, my favorite region is Southeast Asia. The
Okay.
reason I love Southeast Asia is because it feels the most different from us. And for me,
It's a
like,
shock.
yeah, I love it. Like
It's a shock.
culture shock,
Mm-hmm.
that's the best. Like I'm always going after that. I want something different. I want different culture. I want different people. I want different food. I want different lifestyles, different artwork,
Right.
different language. Like the more different, the better.
Right.
I like to like shock my system.
Well,
that way.
that's funny that you say that because, I had, when I went in the Navy, I just turned 20, I turned 21 and I went in right as I turned 21. And up until 2 months before I went in the Navy, I'd never been on an airplane before.
That's wild.
And then I was in San Diego and then I was in the Pacific Ocean and halfway around the world. The first port that I ever, first foreign country, first port I was ever in, I was in Hong Kong. And Hong Kong was still a British colony at the time. And it was literally getting like culturally knocked in the chops. Like, wow, like it was like so, and just to this day, I can't say that if you pressed me, I'd say Hong Kong's my favorite place. Now I've been to Hong Kong twice, 93 and 95, and I haven't been since. So I can't really necessarily say, but there's a fondness of memory in that experience because it was so shocking, and I don't know if that makes sense or not.
Hong Kong's cool. It's definitely like a mix of like it's Asian culture, but it's also got that kind of New York vibe a little bit to it.
Yes, which is I kind of felt that, you know what I
Yeah.
mean? Because I was kind of like, Kowloon side and, running
Yeah.
around Temple Night Market, but also going to Lantau up on the mountain with the Buddha, like that was intense, you know
Yeah.
what I mean? And I was just like, and that kind of like mix for me is, you know what I mean? Like I've got some country in me and I got some city in me. I got a little of both, you know what I mean?
Right.
So, when I get places that are too, I'm one of those people that congruency means something to me. So like if I go to Texas or whatever, to ride around in the car listening to Biggie would feel weird, right? You know what I mean? Like I want to listen to like,
Yeah.
country music, you know what I mean? And if I'm in New York or in Philly and I'm riding around downtown, having some country music on would just feel odd, right? So, but I've got short attention span. So I'll do that for a while and then I'll want a change. And then I'll be in a place where conceptually it'll just be off. So places like that where there's some of both mean that I can kind of like have my cake and eat it too. I don't know if that makes sense or not.
Yeah.
What's next on your list? Where are you going?
Well, I have a little bit of domestic travel coming up. I never really fully count that because, it's like our culture. But my next upcoming international trip is to South Korea, actually, in May. So
He spent some time in South Korea. He was stationed
cool.
there. He was during the pandemic, so he had a damn mask. He was like
Wow.
limited how long he could. I'm surprised he's not even looking at us right now. So
he's zoned
he's
out.
so engrossed in whatever he's looking at. So
That
that's
happens.
okay.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah.
So Hong Kong, Singapore, United Arab Emirates, over and over and over again. Dubai. Back before Dubai was Dubai, it is now. It was a desert town.
Dubai's kind of like concrete jungle, don't you
Yeah,
think? It's
well,
just-
so in the years that I
feels
was
like
there, you know
Vegas.
what I mean? We were just on the threshold of the backside of the Gulf War. So, it wasn't concrete jungle. It was just hot. And there was like,
Yes.
you know what I mean? Like all the stuff that's there, all the development that's there.
It is hot.
None of that was there in Jabal Ali in Dubai when I was there. So someday
Okay.
I'd like to go back just to shock myself into what it is now. But, Perth, Australia, you know what I mean? Like I did
I
Perth.
haven't been to Perth, but I've been to Australia.
Right.
Went
Would you
down the
Sydney side?
coast. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, the
mhm.
east side, right?
Mhm.
Went down from Brisbane to Sydney to Melbourne, and then I flew over to New Zealand. And back to what you were asking me about what my favorite country is, or what my favorite part of the world. I mean, New Zealand is probably New Zealand's definitely one of my favorite countries in the world because
It's look like the videos. It looks like shockingly
New Zealand's
badass.
got everything,
Right.
all the adventure you could want. Like
Right.
all the outdoor stuff. It's got the volcanoes. It's got snowboarding. It's got glacier hiking. It's got whitewater rafting, surfing. Maori people, yeah.
That's badass.
Yeah.
That's badass.
Yeah, they're really cool. I loved New Zealand. I had a great time. I spent 2.5, 3 weeks there riding around on this bus that you could hop on and hop off. So I was like with this group of people, and then I would hop off, and then I would get back on the bus, maybe with the same group, maybe with a different group, and we just stop in all different places around the country and do different activities every day. It was one of the best times in my life.
You're getting my travel Jones on.
Yeah.
Because I've been like thinking about like that, or do I want to go to like Patagonia?
Oh, I love Patagonia.
Yeah, you know what I mean? Like there's things to see. You know?
So much to see in the world.
I've built a life where, between children and dogs and businesses or whatever, where I can be mobile to a point. And I can operate just about anywhere, but I feel strange being too disconnected. So there's part of me, like if I was young and single and didn't have kids and none of that stuff and businesses or whatever, and I could just operate remotely on a laptop, I probably wouldn't even live. We'd probably be having this conversation. I would be like, in
Right.
Italy or something, or just,
So I work remotely, but I can't work from international destinations. So I can work on my laptop from anywhere in the U.S.
Right.
But anytime I'm traveling international, that is
Well, let me
purely
ask a few questions
Yeah.
about the domestic travel. Just a comment that you made specifically makes me think. So, I don't get the impression that you're not well versed in domestic travel. Like
No,
that
I've
you've been
been-
all over the U.S. too. I'm
been
sure.
around most of the states.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Yes, you don't get the same cultural shock. You just don't.
We do have a lot here, though. We have a
Well,
lot.
and that was kind of like where I was thinking. I said to my wife, we were just in Vegas, but then we hopped out. We went to the Grand Canyon, and she had never been, so we went to the Grand Canyon, and we went to what was it? Painted was it Painted Valley or Red Painted Valley or something, like an hour out of Vegas, and it was intense. And I was just like, I forget who it was. Was it Roosevelt that said something about, people who travel the world should be required to see what it is we have here first, right? Which I think actually is, kind of a fair statement to make, because there are people that live in this country that have never seen any of it.
That's true.
Never been out of the state, or I went to Florida twice, you know what I mean? Or stuff like that. And it's just like,
Yeah, I mean, I just get so excited by like the diversity, the differences when I
Right.
travel internationally.
Right.
Like that's what really excites me. And also I want to go to every country in the world. So, I
Right.
mean, I got to get going,
right, right. Does your husband like to travel too, or is he more
He
like?
does, but not as much as I do.
Right, right.
So we definitely travel a lot together. I don't know how many countries we've been to together at this point, probably 20 something. But yeah, we travel a few times a year together, and then I do some of my own travel without him too. So
Well, it's funny because one of the primer questions I was thinking about asking you is, what are you passionate about? But we are already there.
I mean, that's
Right.
half of it's travel, and like the other half is fitness. So
Right.
fitness, exercise, that's my jam. It's like that and travel, like those are my two favorite things. Yeah.
So, what do you? Let me ask this. Let me see if I can pack this up in a way. What you got? Let's say you plotted it out 5 years, not 55, right? And we just said, okay, in the next 5 years, I'm going to put some pins on the map and pins on the calendar, and goals and ideals and things you want to do. If you were going to paint that for me, what would that look like?
Like, what countries am I going to go
Well,
to?
it could be countries or aspirations or goals, or it could be anything really. Like, you know what I mean? If you were painting a vision for, you know, because, you know, we paint the vision and then what's it saying? And then God laughs or whatever. But
Well, I know. I mean, so that's why I don't really do those kind of big, like, 5-year. I know I want to keep traveling, and I know I want to keep going after my fitness. So it's like I'm just going to keep getting better every day
Right.
and just, you know, go after that 1% better version of myself. Whether it's with work, travel, relationships, any kind of service that I'm in to others, like everything that I'm doing in life, I just, my goal in the next 5 years is just to keep being better at all of those things. You know, I don't really have like specific, I don't really give myself too many specific destinations. Like even when I travel to a country, I plan a few things, but I don't like to plan too much because I really believe you need to leave room for like flexibility and flow and like wherever the energy comes, like I just try to go with that. Like I keep looking at that image of this volcano right here, and I saw a volcano erupt like that in Iceland. And I didn't plan to see it. I just happened to be in Iceland on a night where the volcano was erupting. And I arrived and they were like, this volcano is erupting right now. You can literally go and see it. And I went on this hike with this girl that I met randomly. She just happened to hear me talking about wanting to go see this volcano to a group of people. And she said, hey, I actually want to go see that volcano too. And I said, well, I have this van that I'm driving around Iceland for the next week. Why don't you come with me and we can go hike this volcano? And we went and we saw it erupting before our eyes. And you could literally feel the heat from the lava like coming towards you. I mean, it was mesmerizing.
So here's an interesting thing. Like, and this is the first for this show, is that the volcano was the pain, right? And then, you know, kind of the dance doesn't necessarily or typically doesn't necessarily include the volcano. But for you, right, actually the dance does include the volcano, you know, not figuratively, but literally. And you said that actually just kind of like glanced over it when we were, you know, when we were talking before the show, how, you know what I mean? Like, you know, you had some volcano stories and I was like, yeah, okay, cool. You do, you know what I mean? And the volcano is part of the dance for you. And that's kind of, you know, that's unique for this show. We haven't had that yet.
Yeah, definitely.
We haven't had that yet. When, what was it? 2019, the end of 2019, early 2020, that last time I was in Hawaii, we ended up, in a town on the wet side of Big Island, and we met with a guy who he had a porta potty on his land, and that was because his land was 30 feet under the lava, and the whole town was gone. So we met him there, and he was like, and he opened up a binder, and he was showing me pictures of his house that was 30 feet under, like it was literally like the whole ground had been elevated, and there was new volcanoes that popped up, and it pushed out to the sea. And so we went there after. It was shocking. Like, where do we donate? You know what I mean? It was like, wow. And then we go down, and there's this spot where there's this road, and there's like a 20-foot high lava flow that's across the road where you're not four-wheeling over that, with some trees that it had picked up that were like, you know, I guess either growing out of it afterwards or, you know, either that or it had uprooted them. I don't know, one or the other. But the whole coastline was, you know, big black pumice. Like, it wasn't the type of thing where you were going to lay on it. You know what I mean? Like, I got pictures of him standing at the beach, you know, staring at the water or whatever. But just I think myself that, you know, how beautiful, you know, and how deadly. You know what I mean? How, you know, how at any given moment, you know, that, what's it, the Sting song, How Fragile We Are? You know what I mean? That,
yeah.
And there's, you know, there's beauty in that. You know what I mean? Like, when I was in Italy, my wife and I, we were in Rome, and there was this catacomb. And my wife was like, let's go everywhere. She's a cancer survivor, so it's like, what can we see? And I was like, let's see everything. And I was like, oh my God, can't we rest? So the hotel was like 3 blocks from this. You know, we had the map or whatever, and she had everything planned out. I mean, we had a ball, and we saw, you know, I mean, you could not pack more cool shit in 3 weeks. But it was like one day where it was just kind of like slower, and she was like, "We need to go see this catacomb," and I was like, "Can we please not?" Like, and she was like, "No, seriously." So we go to this thing. It was a monastery, 1500s monastery, and there was a catacomb underneath the monastery, you know. And so you go into the entranceway and you pay your $20 or whatever, and they give you them headphones with the little, it's almost like a little recorder on it.
Yeah.
And there was all these displays, like, you know what I mean, like a Bible from the 13th century with swords and, you know, all this, you know, like, in, you know, cross from, you know, whatever. And I'm like, okay, you know what I mean? And bleep, and you put the headphones on, bleep, bleep, and you're like listening to, well, we're at like the 5th one. And I look, and there's like 40 of them. And I'm like, I look at her and I'm like, can we just get to the bones already? Because, you know what I mean? Like, I can't see me dead. She was like, just a couple more. And I'm like, come on, baby, I'm not down with this. So we did a couple more. And finally I was like, give me them headphones. I put them in my pocket real quick. I was like, come on, let's go. So we weaved through all this shit. We finally come around a corner and boom, floor to ceiling bones. Baby skeletons hanging from the ceiling, like it was just nuts. And I was like, and immediately I was like shocked. I was like, oh shit. You know what I mean? Like stacks floor to ceiling and skeletons everywhere. And then after the 2nd or 3rd or 4th room of hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of skulls looking at me and all kinds of shit, you know, and decorations like, you know, vertebra made into like, you know, wings on an angel hanging from this. It was crazy. And I'm like, oh man, this is fucking nuts. And then I start thinking like every last one of these skulls was somebody that was worried about something or was, because like you just started thinking like, man, like all these, you know, what were all these people thinking about? Like, you know what I mean? And so we get to the end, it was like 15 or 20 like vaults. And you get to the end and we walk into the gift shop. It just sounds so crazy after like something so.
It's always a gift shop.
Yeah, right? It was a gift shop, right? So here I am and I'm like, you know, and my wife's like looking around and stuff. And I'm like, what do you get from the Bones place? Like a sweatshirt, right? So I'm pulling out shit, right? There's like coffee table books and shit. I'm like, I pull out this thing that's like, everything said Memento Mori on it. Memento Mori, Memento Mori. And I'm like Googling like Memento Mori, remember death. And I'm like, well, that's morbid. And then I read a little further so that you remember to live life. Right? You know what I mean? Yes. And I'm like, and that became, so strangely enough, it's in alignment with what you said, which is that the place that you look least to plan for adventure is the place that's the most life-changing. Right? Because that whole trip, Memento Mori. Right, that was all the other shit I saw. You know what I mean? The Vatican. You know, I cried in the Sistine Chapel. You know what I mean? Like it was intense to me because I studied Michelangelo and you know for years, and you know what I mean? Like all that. You know what I mean? Like I was intense, but
I get that.
To come away conceptually with a different way of viewing things because of something like, you know, I didn't wear the bracelet today, but I get this because they didn't have the right skulls for me, so I had to get me some new skulls. But I got me a little metal skull bracelet, and the reason why is so I look at it and I go, oh, you know, Memento Mori, you know what I mean? Remember to live life, you know what I mean? Because we don't know how long we got it, and you know, and that's the reason why we do this, right? We do this so that we can capture in this moment. Right? You know what I mean? Like we can experience this moment and then, you know, we can move on from it and can live on to be hope for somebody else. And
it's all about experiences, right? It's like, do you remember what you were worried about last week? I don't.
I'm just trying to learn to get down with things like nihilism. Like all the shit that I'm worried about don't even matter. You know what I mean? Like
matter.
No, but in the moment it seems like it does. Like it's a fight.
Seems like
it's a fight between these ears.
But it's a choice too, right? It's a choice to like, I'm not going to listen to that. You know, where do I want to spend my time? That's the greatest commodity. Like I just don't want to spend time there anymore, you know? It's like we travel, you know, not to escape life, but so that life doesn't escape us, right? Like I don't want to miss it.
Woo! Come on, Dean. Write that down, man. That one was good right there. That was gold.
I didn't make it.
Yeah, but there's still Volcano gold right there. You know what I mean? So it really is. Wow. You know, the funny thing is that I started this out because I thought it would be good to learn about other people and stories and perspectives, but what I find is that each experience that I have with somebody else alters my perspective slightly in a new way. You know what I mean? Like,
Definitely.
whether it's gratitude or enjoyment, or whether it's, experience, or, what it is specifically, the takeaway on that is that, in the conversation, I take away a little piece of it. And, I said to somebody, really recently that, who thinks I'm an incredibly, and I'd like to take the credit, but, thinks that I'm, gifted in that way, that my creative spirit is gifted. And I'm like, really, I'm probably 85-90% thief. Like, real, I'd love to be like, yeah, man, look at me. But I just, I'm observant, and I'm a sponge, and I take bits and pieces from all the stuff that I see around me, and I piece it all together, and, it's pieces and parts. I really wish that I was some, deeply original thinker that has ideas that nobody else has. But, one of the crazy things about getting to know so many other people is, you get to the point where it's like, you realize, you're not a unique thinker.
Yeah.
Like, everybody else has these ideas too. You know what I mean?
Well, I used to think that, like, I wanted to be so unique, but now I actually like knowing that I'm not that unique, and that I'm just like everybody else. And it's just like, that's just the humanity of all of us, really. That's what makes me feel more connected to others. I feel like that's what we're all seeking, is like this deeper connection to other people. And we realize that, like, what's going on in my head is not so unique, and it's not so crazy, and that you think like that and you think like that. Then you don't feel so alone in the crazy world that we live in,
Well, what really caught me about, as you unpacked and explained, was that part of people articulate, their experiences in different ways, specifically like people who are, have been through a journey of, difficulty and then recovery or whatever. And some people articulate it like, they talk about a process, or they talk about this or that. And you went right to, people, right? You know what I mean? And honestly, like, without people, none of that other shit would have really mattered, frankly, because I would have lost my cookies, and I needed people to stand around me during the storm so that I could sort shit out. And recovery and otherwise has built me a massive, powerful tribe that I can lean into and do. You know what I mean? On a regular, just advice, or to be seen, or to be talked off a ledge. But the reality of it is that it's me talking others off a ledge that really ultimately helps me. You know what I mean? So, and letting other people talk me off a ledge helps them, so I got to let them do it too.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Even when I don't want to, when I get in the way.
For sure.
So, man, how about that? Solid, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that was awesome. Samira, I appreciate you. I love you, girl. That was fucking fantastic. I appreciate that. That was awesome. So
Thanks
here's
for
how we
having me on.
generally do this. Dancing on a volcano. We get a little fist pound. Boom. Season 3, episode 2, or now episode 20. We have a lot of people watching the show. We appreciate you. Thank you so much for showing up. We could use your help. Please spread the word. Anybody else wants to hear about great stories, difficult stories, challenging stories, and the dance, which is living a wonderful life after it. Some wisdom, a couple good laughs, a lot of fun. Please subscribe so that you get updates. And don't cost you nothing. And you never know. The story that somebody else hears might save their life. Dancing on the Volcano. Check us out.
I was staring at the bottle, thinking maybe it was time. Had a note in my pocket, few words in a line. But the night pulled me closer to a circle of chairs where broken men whisper that they've been there. Now I'm dancing on a volcano, bare feet over fire and stone. Yeah, I've lived through hell, but I'm not alone. The edge don't scare me, I've already been burned. Every step I take now is a lesson I've learned. The steps on the wall look too tall to climb, but I took them one at a time. Strangers became brothers, sisters sang my song. They carried me steady when I couldn't be strong. I'm dancing on a volcano, bare feet over fire and stone. Yeah, I've lived through hell, but I'm not alone. The edge don't scare me, I've already been burned. Every step I take now is a lesson I've learned. Now I'm dancing on a volcano, bare feet over fire and stone. Yeah, I've lived through hell, but I'm not alone. The edge don't scare me, I've already been burned. Every step I take now is a lesson I've learned. Now I'm dancing on a volcano, bare feet over fire and stone. Yeah, I've lived through hell, but I'm not alone. The edge don't scare me, I've already been burned. Every step I take now is a lesson I've learned. I found love in the quiet, hope in the pain. Happiness grows like flowers in rain. I was ready to fall, now I'm learning to stand. Life feels lighter with God in my hands. Now I'm dancing on a volcano, with a smile where the ashes blow. The fire tried to claim me, but I let it go. The edge don't scare me, I've already been burned. Any day I'm living is a day I've earned.
It's a source of volcano with a smile where the ashes blow. The fire tried to claim me, but I let it go. The edge don't scare me, I've already been burned. Every day I'm living is a day I've earned.